Right, Glenn, I've got a question for you. Is there a good time to sell stuff and a good time to be a copywriter and a bad time? And I'll tell you why I'm wondering this. I've been analyzing the best things I've ever done, the things that have really performed strongly. And these are all in the financial markets, which are seasonal. So there's an overlay, but I'm asking in a broader sense. The best things I've ever done, performance-wise, have always been between November and April, the winter months in the northern hemisphere. I don't think I've ever had a hit in June, July, and August, and I've had some decent results in other months. Do you think there's a time people just don't want to buy stuff, or the demand just isn't there?
Well, it's one of those questions. It depends, is the classic answer. No, I do think there is a time to buy stuff, but I think your window, what you're looking at there is too specific. I think every niche has its own time to buy. You're not going to sell an Easter egg in October kind of thing, but you're going to sell loads around that time. I think what you're seeing is that in the financial copywriting space, as we all know, we don't all know this, but there is a thing where it's like, what is it? You'll tell me the thing, but it's like sell in or go away in May or come back in.
Sell in May and go away, come back on. I want to say St. Ledger's Day, but I don't know what it is. I think it's September the 15th. But I think that's true.
I think it's true. Absolutely. Because the majority of financial people go away during that time and therefore are in there to buy stuff in winter and looking for advice and looking for doing that stuff. So I think you're giving proof to your own theory there that is true. Again, if you sell Easter eggs in March, you're going to sell more than you would sell in October. So I think there is appropriate times. To complicate it further, there is also, I think, or I have experienced that you're obviously working on a kind of, you're working on the financial copy world, long copy calendar, where it's probably like a promo every couple of months, realistically, on a constant tick to keep a business going on an annual basis. And that those businesses work that it's like, right, we need month by month to kind of hit the P&Ls to be business for a while. But working in the freelance space sometimes, and for agencies, I have found that for freelance copywriters, and I'd be interested to find if this is the same for others, you will often find, because you are not involved directly within the business, people will, around busier times, around like busy times as in like Christmas, holidays, i.e. August, school holidays I'm talking about, they won't ask us for as much copy because they're away. But then all of a sudden on January, when they get back to work and like, oh crap, there's all this stuff to do, quick, we better get the freelancers in. So I think there is seasonality. I think there is timing. So that's more to get business. But I think then it comes to selling stuff. Yeah, it's when people are in their particular office, when they're in their particular buying mode, you've got to find the right way to sell to those.
I might start just taking May to September off.
Why not? I mean, if your prospect, so where you're kind of exclusively financial, if your prospect's not there to buy stuff, why are you selling them stuff?
I think it's more what I really thought, and this is becoming the longest intro of all time, was how many good ideas have I wasted in the summer? I'm lucky that I work for Australia too, where of course it's the other way round. And you know, like January, which is a great month generally in our markets, because people genuinely wake up in January and think, I need to get my money in order. I need to get my pension in order. I need to, like, that will be a resolution. So the demand is really high. It's the exact opposite in Australia, because that's actually, don't think the financial year works the same way. And it's also, that's their August. So they, you know, everyone just clocks off because it's their, you know, it's their hottest month. It's the height of summer, so it's really, really difficult. But I did just think, how many good ideas have I written and had published in July that could have been a hit in November when it's cold and dark and people are stuck at home and engaging more online, or however you want to think about it, just made me wonder. I wonder if I should save them all up.
I still don't think your Christmas stocks headline is going to work at any time of the year. It's just a weak idea. Santa's shares, not good. Don't do it.
It's definitely true. The last 3 years in a row, I've had a really big hit late autumn, early winter, which maybe it's just fortunate, but I'm starting to believe it's not. And then it's like, okay, this is the time right now, this time of year. This is when I need to have my best ideas out there. Because it just...
Yeah, well, I think that's because I'm now thinking, actually, is it like a business are there unseen factors to go to a kind of unseen economics kind of stuff where is the business more desperate coming into these months to get something out? So, and now this is not to discredit your copy, but like, are they so like, oh God, we need to make this work? So the marketers are doing well. Compliance is allowing things through, like the accounts department are reaching out more. So is that the case? And that might be the case, but what the important takeaway is, I think what we're saying in this potentially the longest intro of the year award, and intros are, by the way, longer at this time of year.
Yeah.
What we're really saying is that you should be aware of times where your ideas are hitting the ground. And if you can see over a year career, actually it's all around these things, then yes, you need to be more prepared to use your ideas and to give yourself more idea time, more development time, more writing time around these key areas. Don't go on holiday they're like this month, you know what I mean? So
or the previous 2 months.
So like figure out your own calendar, look at your own clients, maybe over a year or 2 year period, and go, where was I hot? In the same way you'd email, the best way to make money is to get your existing customers to give you a little bit more money. And therefore, if your existing clients work around these times, make sure you're available for those times.
Welcome to The Fix. Sit down with copywriting experts Nick O'Connor and Glenn Fisher as they review, discuss, and improve real-world copy sent in by you. This is The Fix.
Let's talk about some financial copy. So I've got a piece of copy that I'm going to read aloud. It's from a writer called David Williams. He gave me permission to use his name. I've not just taken a risk.
That's how you start all conversations, isn't it? You ask people if you've got permission to hi, my name's John. Have I got permission to use your name? Yes, you have. Hi, John. How are you doing?
Can I call you John? Can I touch you, John? Can I put my hand on your arm, John? This is not John's copy. This is David Williams's copy. Right, it's a piece of financial copy. I'll read it aloud. It is a lift note. I've got two things I want to talk about as a result of it, but we'll talk about the copy first. So a lift note, remember, is an email that links to an existing piece of copy. I don't have that piece of copy. I can guess what it is, but we'll just judge the lift note on its own merits. The subject line reads, America's horror show World War III. Dear reader, Joe Biden has unleashed what I now call a horror show here on US soil. And this comes in the wake of the Israeli Gaza Strip crisis. And what may be the worst time in history, Calamity Joe Biden's incompetence has now come into play. And the wealth and safety of every American household will suffer for it. In the next couple of weeks, I predict we are about to be seeing gas prices exploding to $15 a gallon, oil prices rocketing up to $250 per barrel, and complete food and water shortages in our society, which explains why I've just come forward with a new warning urging every American patriot to start preparing. Because with the current tensions rising in the Middle East, America is now one rocket strike away from complete devastation, and Calamity Joe Biden is to blame. Do not waste any time with the link. Please go here now to see the steps I recommend you take to protect yourself and your family from the coming devastation.
Hashtag devastation on LinkedIn there, just to catch all those devastating people.
Just as a rule, a small piece of advice, words like devastation, sort of disaster porn words, they're the equivalent of like eruption and super rich, that's sort of like, you've got to, like, those words can be powerful if used sparingly and at the right moment. If not, they become a little bit like swear words, whereas like they just.
I'd say it's something slightly different to that, and I'm going to define it by using a word I don't quite understand. But I believe it makes it melodramatic, and that's no good, because what we're trying to create in copy is genuine drama, and genuine drama is not created in that space of devastation and oh my god, it's done this thing. It's like people should go away and search for Brass Eye, TV series by Chris Morris, which parodies the news. Or it might be Brass Eye or The Day Today. You can find them both on YouTube. But there's a whole thing where they're getting two politicians to say war, and then as soon as one of them says, well, if that happened and I did that, then I'd declare war. And then the news studio bursts, and it's like, whoa, and it's like a mockery of the melodrama that is created around that. And that's what, when you were reading that copy, that's forget everything else. There's some good stuff in there, but that overshadowed everything, because it's going devastation, wow, and it's like, I'm not reading the rest of the copy.
Well, the technical reason I'd say stuff like that can fall a bit flat is it slightly tries to tell the reader how to feel.
Yeah.
So what you want to do is go half the way to the reader and let the reader come the other halfway to you. So you meet them in the middle. So you put your idea out into the world and allow them to see it and be attracted to it and feel something about it. Whereas if you try and tell them what to feel, you're going right up to their face. You're not giving them any space to come towards you. You're saying, this should terrify you. And it's like, don't tell me how to. I'm just one of those people who are saying, don't tell me how to think. Don't tell me what to feel. Like I'll figure that out for myself. So you just got to be careful with stuff like that. That wasn't the piece of advice I wanted to talk about, but just got to be careful. We've always got to try and tone it down a little bit, and then just use those words sparingly. Now,
yeah. Although just to clarify, because I don't think you tone it down. You actually want to be toning it up, but the way you tone things up is to be subtle and. Yes. And precise and direct in the emotions and imagery you're using.
You don't want to say you'll be devastated, decimated, obliterated, and annihilated. You know what I mean? We don't want.
Yeah.
You just goes too far. It doesn't stop meaning anything. Anyway, that's a language thing. What about the idea? So, I actually think there is a good idea lurking here. It's a little bit disjointed at the moment. So, and it's kind of all there in the first three lines, which I'm just going to read again. Joe Biden has unleashed what I call a horror show here on US soil. And this comes in the wake of the Israeli Gaza Strip crisis. At what may be the worst time in history, clumsy Joe Biden's incompetence has now come into play. That has all the elements we need, but they're not quite tightly knitted together, okay? So, what we're trying to do in a piece of copy like this is open a loop, create a hook, okay? And one of the ways of thinking about that is, well, the way of thinking about a piece of copy like this, which is the way it's often done, is we need two things to create a hook. We need the way the world is now and the way the world could be, and then some twist that gets you from the way the world is now to the way the world could be. And it can work in any number of ways, but in this case, the way the world is now would be the second line of copy, the Israeli Gaza crisis. There's already a hot war that America is involved in some way, through military strikes or whatever. So there's an unsettling situation going on. That's what's known today. And people will have a feeling about that, and they'll have some emotional baggage around it. So it's powerful. Then there's the way the world could be. Horror show here on US soil. So we have our two elements. We have our disturbing current situation and our even more disturbing future situation. What we need to do is try and knit those two things together so that you think, how can those? So it's about contrasts in this case. So really it's that maybe it's something like, right now you're seeing tanks rolling into Gaza, American airstrikes, talk of war all across the Middle East. But what you may not realize is, and then it's about a chain reaction that goes from what's going on today over there to something that could play out on US soil. To me, that can really work because it's connecting something I'm concerned about that's far away to something that, okay, how could that affect, American soil? If what our idea is that the situation in the Gaza Strip is about to boil over and have real world consequences on the streets of America, that's a powerful open loop, right? How? Why? What's the story there? These are the questions we want our reader to be asking themselves, because that allows us to channel that feeling they're having and get them to take the action we want them to take, which is to read our promotion. So it's kind of all there, but you can't just say he's unleashed a horror show here in the wake of the crisis. It has to be something going on over there is about to boil over here, and they're connected in a very, they're connected in a very connected way. But what is that connection? That's your idea. If we work with that, I think we've got something really strong. Right now, it kind of leaves us hanging, doesn't quite develop that far enough.
Yeah, well, everything you say is right. I was trying to think of like the kind of philosophical way of thinking about it, or rather like why that copywriter or David Williams, David Williams or David Williams, I want to say. David Williams.
Whose name we can use.
Yeah, whose name we are allowed to use. What I'm thinking there is they've got all the right ingredients, but it's that classic situation, and we say it so many times, but I think we might have fallen here of writing copy. So you've got all the right ingredients, like we've seen that, you've looked at what's going on in the world, you know where you're going to get to this kind of promo with whatever details in it, and you can see the clues there with the gas price and all this kind of stuff. But where it falls short is that it's done that in a slightly copy, inverted commas, way, and it's done it to emulate what copy looks like rather than actually looking at it and going, right, well, and it's trying to hide the very reason why it would occur, because I would assume, I'm going to guess that David Williams, whose name we can use, David's probably thinking that's how you create the hook. You hide the reason why. And it's not necessarily, there's a subtlety there that it's not actually what you're trying to do to create the hook, to create that open loop. You have to necessarily, first of all, understand why in your head, then write the copy itself, then perhaps take out the bit afterwards.
Take out one thing. Take out one thing.
Yes.
That's the key.
Yeah. And that at the moment, we've thrown all the ingredients at the page, not really knowing how they come together, thinking we've got to keep this whole thing a secret. And we so often copyright, that's how it works, especially in the financial niche. We saw like a couple of years of it, it was just a rash of, and we still see the remnants of it now, of just like, there's this thing, and it's just like, fuck, like, get lost. Like, that's not copy, that's just emulating the third version of that promo. Like, to actually get down to the nut, you have to explain it, go through a process of going, right, this is the way it looks now, that this is how it could be, and this is the thing. Then go, now what bit can I take out of there that will make this like, oh, what is that kind of thing? Rather than just sitting there and go, right, I'm writing an endo, I'm doing this thing, and that's it. I've said Gaza, that's going to get everybody upset. I've said horrible war, I've said this, pepper it with devastation, and
we need it to be, it needs to be just slightly tighter idea-wise. I mean, all copy, but particularly financial copy, comes back to this, that if you say an event that's just taken place in the Gaza Strip in the middle of a war zone is about to send oil prices in America up a ton, that works because, you can develop that. But what you don't want to do is say a horror show is coming, something to do with Gaza, but it could send oil prices up. See the difference? It's like it has all the same elements, but they're not tightly knitted together in the second one. They're They're just sort of put out there, which is you see it all the time. It's very, very common.
Oh God, yeah. And by the way, I'd say for David here, this is a universal thing.
Yeah, it's not.
It's a massive. I wouldn't even say it's a challenge of the industry that we work in. That this is what most things get produced as, and therefore there's an echo chamber of it. And I think you'll get lesser. People will say, yeah, just do that and send 20 of them off to people and all this kind of stuff. But like, I think clearly they understand how it works. It's just hopefully what you can see is by doing that process, often the place to start is by just describing the situation very boringly and just saying this, and therefore this. Because as I always say, like the one step removed idea, at some point you've got to say, and that's why you should get your wallet out and pay me. So you need to have a very clear process in your mind of this thing is happening so that this happens, so that this happens, so that you get your wallet out and pay me money. And as soon as you start like obfuscating all of those elements and trying to hide them for Heidi's sake, you're going to be lost. So like clear it up, get it in your own mind, write that. I would dare say that piece of copy will be better than most of the copy you will see submitted in places. But then the clever copywriter will then take out an element and just that's where the super intrigue goes, and you're onto a winner.
So I would guess, and I don't know, but I would guess this idea is actually about America's relationship with Saudi Arabia. So it's probably about the petrodollar. That's a big theme at the moment. So it's probably the Gaza-Israeli conflict. It's maybe slightly tangential to it, although it is connected, because if you back the wrong side in that conflict, you make an enemy elsewhere. So if you, let's say that is the idea. I don't know, but I'm going to guess. The idea is that Joe Biden's support or intervention, not support, intervention in the Israeli Gaza, sorry, it's not Gaza, is it? It's the Israeli-Palestine conflict. Risks making an enemy of Saudi Arabia, which could have devastating consequences, which could obliterate and annihilate the US dollar. It's probably that. So that's it. That's it in plain, right? So if we're going to take something out, I probably wouldn't mention Saudi Arabia. I'd probably say his intervention in the conflict in the Middle East risks making an enemy of a grave enemy or a mortal enemy of one of America's biggest rivals. Probably wouldn't say Saudi Arabia, because I want the reader to think, well, who? Could be anyone. It could be the players in the conflict. It could be regional players. It could be Iran. So I'd leave that to the imagination, and then they're going to create this enemy, or they're going to start a war, or they're going to create an enemy that's going to declare war on America. And this war is about to have terrible consequences for people here. All of a sudden, they're kind of the same thing, but it's just knitted together slightly more. But it's like you say, Glenn, you have to get your ideas in order and straight. You have to straighten things out first. It's a bit like, again, I'm going to use a metaphor that doesn't belong here because it's not something I'm good at. But if you're coming up with a song, I imagine you have to get the straight version of it down first before you start playing around with it a little bit more. Let's just work out what the tune and the melody is. Then we'll put some twist on it. You've got to straighten things out. And ideas are the same. You've got to get them organized. Then what can I take out and what can I twist? And maybe that's missing here.
Well, two things get out of my mind. I'm thinking of a PS that says, by the way, it's not Scotland, just to like really throw the intrigue in. But no, I'm a big fan of, I've read a lot, and I promise I'm not just showing off, but like I've read a lot and studied Picasso a lot, because I think he's probably, as time goes on and everything zooms out, he's probably one of the most influential artists of like the past 2,000 years. But if you look at his paintings as a 14-year-old child, they look like the greatest classic paintings of our time. They're incredible. If you look at them as a 70-year-old man, they are what my dad would say nonsense and rubbish. They're not. They're actually incredibly deeply emotional, interpretive, and all this kind of stuff, and so difficult to kind of create. But that is the point where it's like, even Picasso, you look at like modern art for time, He only was able to do that once he'd absolutely studied the basics, got that down, could paint a leg perfectly and do all that kind of stuff. Then he was able to manipulate and go crazy and do whatever and reinvent and invent half of the things that we look at today. Like even everything, there'll be something in your house, my house, everyone's house will be slightly influenced by it. But he started by learning the basics, and you've got to do that.
Well, I think you need to think about, and often when I'm reviewing people's copy, you know, and maybe it's like the first question I'd ask would be like, just tell me, what is this really about? One of the first pieces of advice, and probably the best piece of advice I ever received from Bill Bonner, was actually in the context of a meeting about legal.
Bill Oddie, never touch a puffin on a Wednesday.
On camera. He said, just step back and ask yourself, what are you really trying to say? And he said that in the context of dealing with a lawyer. If the lawyer won't let you say X, don't fight them. Step back and say, what do I really want to say here? And that's always stuck with me because it's true in that context, but it's also true in a wider sense. So if I was working with somebody on this piece of copy, I'd say, and I say it all the time, just tell me quickly, not the copy, just you tell me what's the story here. And you can tell straight away, one of two things happens. Either the writer goes, well, it's sort of about, it's about the dollar and Saudi Arabia. And it's like, well, you don't know what it's about yet because you can't tell me. Or, so that's quite common. Like you haven't got it organized yet. Or they tell you exactly what it's about and you say, well, say that then. Well, you just said, the way you said it then was way more compelling. So it's like, you can build that into your process. Imagine someone rang you up and said, don't use a word of the copy. Just tell me what the story is here. You can either explain it or you can't. If you can't explain it, you don't know what your idea is. If you can explain it, stick as close to that as you can, and then tweak it around. Glenn, just to wrap up, I'm gonna end on a controversial note. So, I'm gonna disagree with everything you said about Picasso. No, this is not the first piece of copy like this we've reviewed in the sense that it's a lift note, an email for a financial publisher. We're seeing more and more of it. I'm going to plant my flag in the sand and say it's time for that to stop. I think someone out there at some point in time has given the perfectly reasonable piece of advice to new copywriters, that is, write lift notes, because that's a great way of getting yourself noticed by a publisher, which is true. But now everyone's doing it. Everyone is doing it. And I don't see in the industry a lot of demand for this right now. I'm definitely not saying it's useless, because it's not, but maybe it's not the calling card it once was. Maybe the edge there has been eroded. What I am seeing of people who are getting, and there's two people we work with, they're thefix Academy members, so that's where we give one-on-one coaching, who have got jobs with financial publishers by pitching ideas, by pitching new headlines and leads, so new headlines and leads for existing copy. We call that re-leading it, finding a new way in, or just fresh ideas, because that's the really valuable skill. And that's the one that I would encourage new writers to really try and develop, because I think it is harder, but it is held in a higher regard and is valued higher within the industry. Therefore, you have a much better chance. I've, in the last month, seen two people they're not full-time jobs, they're paid freelance gigs with some training involved and stuff like that. So somewhere between a job and not a job, but based on that. So I think it's time for people to start grasping the nettle and doing that and not lift notes if they want in.
I'm going to say for you, but for myself, I believe doing that, submitting lift notes to financial publishers, is a waste of your time. And I'll say doesn't mean it won't get you anywhere, but if you think through the logic process, I email Jeremy Clarkson, the head of Stansbury. That's not the head of Stansbury, but like if you email them a lift note and go, I've written this lift note, even if it's the best acist lift note in the world, they'll go, oh, that's cool. Maybe we'll do something with you. I'd like to see, can you do this? Can you do X? Can you do Y? Then you're going to have to go back to do that anyway. So when I say I actually think it's a waste of time, because I think most people will dismiss it. No one, I can't see a publisher, a serious one, really committing themselves to chasing up a lead from someone who's sent them a lift note. I just can't. And I'm willing to be disproven on that. But in my time in the financial niche, I don't think I've seen that.
Well, can I tell you what's gone on? This is what I think has gone on. I think that advice was quite sound 5 years ago when publishers had lots of copy out in the market that was working. Their ideas were working. Therefore, their challenge was, we need more eyes on our pitches.
Yeah.
More email copy. We need more ad copy. Fine. That was where that was the missing piece. We need more of this. That's not the case now. The market has changed. It's much harder to make things work. So what they want is the copy itself, the promotion itself, the idea itself. That's the hard part to, solve for X. Yeah. So do you see what I mean? They're not blessed with 10 promotions they need 50 lift notes for. They need that one promotion.
I'm also going to do a gross upsell that if people want to get into financial copywriting, Nick, you have recorded a lovely masterclass that teaches people how to get ahead in that world. If you are watching this video, you want to be in financial copy and you are writing lifts, trying to get jobs, doing all that stuff, I'm going to go strong and say you need to join the Fix Accelerator and get access to that masterclass. It will put you 10 times ahead of all of the other people out there doing that and get you it will accelerate your chances of getting a job, getting noticed, getting those things. And I can make that claim because it's all your work, Nick.
Well, I'd like to think it will. I mean, it's just me talking about copy, but I suppose I have something to say. What we'll do even more for you is getting your copy reviewed, whether that's here. I mean, we do a live call for Fix Accelerator members usually every Friday. You can have as much copy as you like reviewed. I'm just thinking of, I think there's 4 or 5 people that have come through that now who are now working in the industry. As they weren't all from a standing start. Some of them, were already known.
Some of them were sat down. You can sit down.
You know what I mean? I don't want to say that we've taken 5 beginners and put them in the industry, because that's not true. Some of them were beginners. Some of them were looking for that extra bit of polish. But ultimately, when we talk about straightening ideas out and getting organized, the real way of doing that is through discussion with other writers and finding it. It's really hard to do on your own. Anyway, that's enough of flogging our own stuff. It's not the right time.
Directly and harshly, because it's just true.
Right, Glenn, I need to pop to the co-op to buy my kids dinner. You have to take your missus out for a birthday tea. I assume it's a curry.
No, it's not. She said, because I've kept it a surprise. She hates surprises. I said, it's not a bad surprise. And she said, oh, is it this curry place? I went, it's your birthday, Ruth. I wouldn't book a curry for your birthday surprise. No, it's a nice restaurant in Sheffield. I won't say it in case she's eavesdropping at the top of the stairs.
You can review that on next week's episode of The Fix. But for now, let's wrap things up. Let's go and do our various errands / birthday dinners, and we'll see everybody next week.
If you enjoy The Fix and want to get access to even more good stuff, join the Fix Accelerator today. Get access to special masterclasses from Nick and me, watch expert interviews with industry legends, join live copy feedback sessions every week, and get connected to our very own private copy network. Visit thefixaccelerator.com for more information.